Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to Respawn Station. My name is Kandula, and today I'm joined once again by my co-host in crime, Nick Sivak. And I'm happy to say that this is the version 1.2 update of the podcast. And for those of you who are looking for the patch notes, don't worry. There's only two changes. One, the UIs, everything's more minimalistic, just a little bit cleaner for the general kind of general audience. If I'm being completely honest, it's for when we do the clips and like we have a video that's like about Phantom Fury or something, and then all of a sudden there's like Assassin's Creed like characters on screen, just to make it a little bit easier. So the UI is cleaned up, and you'll see some of that throughout this episode if you're a video viewer. And also the second thing, we finally you guys can now hear Nick's actual voice. You know what I mean? Before he was for anonymity, we were modifying it, but now we got the real thing. So Nick,
by that he means we got a new mic.
Yes,
so.
yeah. So hopefully you guys appreciate all the new changes and can are appreciating it. Please, I didn't mean to say appreciate, but now that I've said it, I'm going to stick to it. I hope you guys are appreciating this. Okay, please like leave a like. Okay, you guys better be showing some goddamn appreciation around here. But with that said, today we're going to talk about what might be the very final Nintendo Direct in the Nintendo Switch life cycle. But of course, before we get to that, I have to ask Nick a few very important questions. First of all, Nick, how you doing, man? How you doing?
Doing all right.
I don't care. What are you playing?
Yes, that is more important. What am I playing? So I have a couple different things that I've been playing this week. Basically, my time has been split between a game called Blockbuster Inc., the update to Fallout 76 for Skyline Valley, and also a little bit of retro. I've also been playing Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus.
I actually went into GG yesterday to update what I was playing, and I was like, Sly Cooper? What the hell?
Yeah, PlayStation re-released it on PS5.
Oh,
so I have to support Sly Cooper when I can, because
you're hoping for another one. You're delusional.
Going to make another one at this point. But yeah, they re-released it. It's got new trophy list. It's got it's part of a new PS2 emulator that Sony, I believe, has put into practice. So you have things like save states and rewind and stuff like that. So
see, okay, so I don't know if I've said this before, but I am a PlayStation Extra member, and that gives you it's kind of like Game Pass essentially. So it gives you a whole access to a bunch of games that you can download and play at any time. But then as you're going through, at least on the PS5, you'll see like games that are like, you'll go through the list, and all of a sudden like Resistance 3 will show up, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I go over, and it's like, you have to be a premium to do it. And I'm like, why are you showing it to me then?
Yeah.
But no, I think there will be a point where I just for a month just upgrade my membership just so I could fly through some games. Like, I know Resistance 3 is going to be just, chef's kiss. And if you haven't played Resistance 3, I would say hold your breath until a remaster comes out. But hey guys, I hate to break it to you. It's been quite a few years, and I don't think Insomniac's I don't think Insomniac needs to go back and rest on their laurels yet. So
yeah, the kind of the interesting thing with talking about PlayStation Extra and Premium is that specifically with I think the PS1, PSP, and PS2 games, you can buy them just outright.
Oh, really?
Which is what I did, because I'm not a premium member. But I could pay $10 to get Sly Cooper. The pricing isn't the same for all games, because the new PS2 ones for this round were Sly Cooper. I think it was Tomb Raider Legend and a Star Wars Clone Wars game.
Huh.
And I think the Tomb Raider one was 20, Sly was 10, and the Star Wars one I think was 10 or 15 maybe.
Wow.
So prices can kind of vary, but I was happy being the one that I wanted. Sly was $10, which I was like, hey, I think that's a fair price, because that game's awesome.
Yeah, I know. So you're overall you're enjoying Sly on the PS5. Is there any kind of any benefits of the PS5 other than probably just loading fast or?
Yeah, just like what I mentioned, the like save states and stuff are like little convenience
Oh, okay.
things. If you are like into going for trophies, those are there also. The game is it is the PS2 version that's ported over to PS5. So basically, on the PS3, there was an HD collection that they did for the Sly trilogy,
Right.
and it's not that version of the game. This is like the PS2 version that's like scaled to fit your TV. It's still in 4:3, so you have your black bars on the side and everything. But yeah, I finished it last night actually, so it's not a
How
very
long are the
like,
Sly
long game.
Cooper games? I've never actually like finished one. I played them, but
The first one is, if I recall correctly, the shortest. It took me maybe like 7-ish hours to get through.
Gotcha.
I only played it like a couple of nights. The other ones are probably in that like 12 to like 18-hour range, depending on how thorough you go through.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's expected. Nothing crazy. I mean, I would have guessed 10 hours, so I mean, it kind of lands in that safe spot.
Yeah, Sly 1 is a bit weird just because it definitely plays more like the platformers of those times, like Crash Bandicoot, where it's like kind of linear-ish levels that you go through and you're trying to find like an item. Once you get to Sly 2 and onward, they kind of like place you in a big like hub area for the levels, and then you kind of like do objectives within the level. So
I see.
This one's it's structured a bit differently than the other games, but it's still good. Like the music's good, the story, characters. It's all that classic PS2 era kind of platformer nostalgia goodness.
Speaking of PlayStation 2 platformer goodness, I think I have a game that sort of slots in, and that is, don't say it with me, Nick, Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. This is the game that I kind of briefly mentioned at last episode because as quote unquote first impressions. But to be honest, I'd pretty much beaten the game. I just was like cleaning up a few things before I actually rolled credits. And actually, I think this a little bit like an hour after the stream, I had rolled credits last week. And my full review is up on RespawnStation.com for those of you who just want to check it out and see what I think about it in a much more kind of concise way. But to kind of give you guys the brief explanation, Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip is a 3D adventure game set in the small, bite-sized open world of Sprankle Water. And look, if that name sounds weird to you, then pretty much every name in this game. Oh shit! I apologize. I've messed up Nick's cam. I didn't realize how Nick how Nick looks. There it is. Nick's back in his corner, subjugated to the limited amount of space that he has. But anyway, so yeah, this game has essentially. It's a small open world that you kind of explore, and you play as, you guessed it, Tiny Terry, and essentially has one goal to achieve in this entire game, which is to get to space, and his reasoning is pretty simple. He didn't do great in school, and so his parents left him behind while they went on vacation. And so they didn't go to summer school. And so his logic is, if I get to space, I'll be famous, and then I don't have to worry about summer school anymore. Which honestly is it's pretty fair. So the game starts with kind of at step one, Terry getting his hands on a car with no license or anything. And then in step two, it's really up to you how fast or slow you want to do it. I mean, it took me about 5 hours, or I think 5.5 hours maybe total in this game to roll credits. But again, that's doing all but I think like two things in the game. I didn't buy all the hats, and I didn't pay off the government's debt. Other than that, the rest.
That's great. Those are like the kind of like, if you ever see people online talk about like patch notes out of context, like
Yeah.
they just pull like random notes like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep, pretty much. So other than those two, I did kind of everything in the game. I explored the map. I saw all the random kind of side characters, and so that was 5.5. But I think you could probably streamline this and beeline it in like 2 hours. I think you could actually finish it. But that being said, I do recommend taking your time with it because to me, I think this is like a perfect game to just dip your toes into while you're waiting for something. Like last week, if I was giving an example, before the podcast started, I was sitting here. I mean, it's similar to I think what Nick's Pro Skater on the Switch. It's I was sitting here and I was like, all right, I got like 25 minutes to kill before the stream starts. So I just pulled out my Steam Deck and I played a good 20 minutes of the game, and I was actually in that 20 minutes of time, I actually felt productive because I was completing tasks because they're very, very simple, very easy, and the game knows that. It's very self-aware in terms of like how kind of menial some of its tasks are, and that's part of the joke. So if I was to have some sort of like reservation in recommending the game to someone, I would say like make sure you can understand you're picking up the game's kind of the vibe, because that's really what's important here. If you're watching the game's the game gameplay in the background and you're like, that doesn't look super like fun to me, then chances are the game's not going to bite for you. But that being said, if you're someone who's like totally down for humor that's kind of like at the game's expense and also at your expense, because you're like the game gives you a task to do, like go collect whatever, blah blah blah, and at the end of that you might realize that it was all just like pointless. But I mean, you'll have accomplished something, like you'll have gotten. Also, I guess to drive that point home, the thing that you're collecting in this game, because your goal is to get to space. Though how you get to space, Nick, is pretty self-explanatory. You upgrade your car with turbo junk, and so you literally go around asking for junk. I mean, there's one interaction in this game where you go up to a guy and he's like, "Yeah, I have a bunch of junk buried in the desert," and he's like, and you're like, "I want it," and he's like, "Okay, are you serious? Okay, I'll pay me like $50 or sorry, 50 money, because it's money in this game. It's not, there's no like dollars or it's called money. So he's like, pay me 50 money. And his friend is sitting right next to him and goes, 50 money? You're paying him for trash. It's literal trash that you're paying him for. And you're like, yeah, I understand. And you pay him, and then you and you go dig it up, and that's how you upgrade your, I believe after every 150 turbo junk you collect, you can upgrade it, and then nine upgrades is enough to get to space. And it's, I mean, like, there's so many. Here's the thing, right? This game has so many jokes, just like littered throughout its small open world, that I could, like, as I'm trying to like tell you guys about how much fun I had, like, I want to go and be like, oh, and then this happened, and then also like, I went here and this dude over this, but I want to, it is a short game, so I'm going to restrict myself to not say, to not spoil any of that. But like from a tanning beach goer to a bumper car lunatic, there's so many things in this game that are just like odd character moments that just that are just kind of fun, put a smile on your face, especially if you're kind of looking in, like I said, for a quick dip in and dip out. And I guess, I mentioned it earlier, and I should kind of reiterate. I played the game on the Steam Deck entirely, and I think this game is almost like flawless on the Steam Deck. In fact, I don't know if it actually says it on the screen. The game's only out on PC right now, but during, I don't know if you caught this, Nick, but during like Summer Game Fest last week, I see a few events actually say summer, like, or a Steam Deck on it, next to the PS5 and Xbox Series XS logo. They just actually say Steam Deck instead of just Steam, which I appreciate, because primarily if I'm going to get a Steam game nowadays, it's going to be something I'm playing on the Steam Deck. So this game, if you're a Steam Deck owner, is perfectly playable as on the Steam Deck. other than like the only problem I had was occasionally as you're driving through the city, you'll see like especially at high speeds, you'll see like some pop in the in the distance of like some cars or something, but it's really negligible. I mean, it didn't really bother me much. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna ask a question about the gameplay because I was watching some of the clips that you had on the stream here, and like from what you're saying, you're doing a lot of different semi-menial tasks.
Yeah.
Is it like primarily a platformer, or is it like one of those type of games where like you're really kind of shifting genre and shifting mechanics pretty frequently? Like I saw a little bit of driving, I saw like some gliding in there.
So
like,
yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna be honest. I did cheat a little bit, and I used the platforming as a just a transition a little bit. It is primarily like I would actually compare it more to like the Simpsons Hit and Run, or even like again, I wouldn't really say like GTA for kids. I mentioned this in my review. I wouldn't really quote it that, but it is like you have this you have like. You can steal cars. I didn't actually do that in my playthrough in terms of like going up to someone and just hijacking their car. There is like a side quest where you have to like literally steal some vehicles. But for me personally, I mean, I didn't I wasn't doing crimes. Okay, I was in character, and Terry didn't like doing violent crimes, and so that wasn't what I was about. But
So it's a little like sandboxy. Is that what I'm getting?
That's
like,
the perfect word for it. It's a
Gotcha.
small sandbox that you can kind of and there is platforming in it. Like you'll have to do certain jumps to kind of get to certain places. Eventually, there's like stuff you can buy to kind of make your life a little bit easier in terms of. There's a glider, so at any point, if you jump off of a certain height, you can just kind of glide around the city a little bit to reach certain things. If you hit like a pocket, like an air pocket, there's an air pocket that can carry you around the whole city, and so you can kind of jump off whenever you want. So there's like a whole bunch of mechanics. I don't even know if it's in the. I haven't been actually watching the gameplay that's been playing, but so I don't know if it's actually highlighted there. But there's even essentially as you're playing, there's. I might forget. It's been a few days since I've last played it, but I think left on the D-pad gets you your like attack weapon, and it's just like a brute force like a pipe or whatever. If you do down on the D-pad, it gives you to your shovel, and the shovels essentially you can dig for some of the junk and money and stuff like that. And then if you do right on the D-pad, it eventually when you unlock it, it's a net, and with the net you can catch like bugs and like blueprints that are flying around. So there's kind of a smattering of different things you can do in this little sandbox. But primarily it's, platforming, driving, but there's a little bit of everything in there. Just for anyone who likes to change things up. And also, this is a really weird thing I wasn't expecting in this game. At least, and Nick is as you've kind of seen a little bit of the gameplay here. Maybe you also. Maybe you also pick up on my surprise, but this game can actually be played in first person. So at any time, if you press R3, it puts you into first person, so you can literally drive around in first person, jump around, like traverse the entire. It's so weird because it puts you in the perspective so fast. Like it's like it was something I wasn't expecting at all. To be in.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Also, this is not a full price game. I should mention that. Just in case if you didn't know this. I mean, look, if you're here for any kind of conclusive thoughts about what I think of Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip, I really liked it. To see what score I gave it, you have to head over to respawnstation.com. But to just kind of give you my overall thoughts, it was so nice to play a game where I could just dip in and have a list of objectives that didn't feel super overwhelming for me. I wasn't like don't get me wrong, I love being like the superhero, that's like fully kitted out and like saving the world or slaying a dragon or some cool thing like that. But sometimes it's just nice to drive around a cartoony little city full of colorful characters and pretend to be a kid who's trying to get to space so he can avoid going to summer school. So with that said, check out Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. It is available now on PC on Steam, completely playable on the Steam Deck, which is how I prefer. I would recommend playing it. Thank you to the publisher for sending us a copy of the game to review. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. And man, it sure was a good one.
Right on.
Now, Nick, let's give it back to you here, because you were playing a game that I think as soon as I sent you the code for it, or the message about it, you're like, wow, this is a Suri-ass game. And so, being Suri, I'm very curious about how Suri-ass game is this. Blockbuster Inc. Nick, well, first of all,
Sure.
What is Blockbuster Inc.?
So, Blockbuster Inc., I would most, closely describe as like, it's kind of like a Sims-like game. Essentially, you are creating this movie studio, and you are controlling various aspects of movie production, and building departments, building up different faculties, different sets and things like that.
Right.
And you're trying to make a successful movie studio, more or less. You're not really, my Sims analogy here, it's not like you're controlling like a set group of people,
Right.
more than it's a very like systems heavy kind of game. So there's a lot of different, basically like movies, you need your producers, you need your writers, you need a director, you need actors, you need all these different peoples. They all need different, rooms and offices essentially to get their job done. You need to fund the movie.
Wow.
You can run out of money and then you need to start taking loans. Actors can, require special accommodations if they want to join your production. You set the work schedule and like when people eat and when people go home. There's a lot of like systems under the hood.
That's okay. So here I'm just watching the gameplay, and so do you edit the movie yourself? Because I saw there was like a momentary clip of like someone dragging a audio files and stuff like that on.
Yeah.
What?
So that was something that I was curious about when starting it also, because I feel like this type of game has been attempted before, like, control all aspects of your, movie production and stuff. And you can. So you can get even to the point where, like, when you are in the process of filming, because, like, you have to, set all the parameters for your movie, and then it starts in production, and you can, like, fast forward through the timeline and watch, like, all the little AI people make the movie. You can go down into like the camera view on the stage and manipulate the camera angle. You can I believe manipulate the lights. You can add new props and stuff. You can manipulate the shot in that way, and then once all the filming is done, or like while it's being done, you can open up an editor, and like you saw in the gameplay, you can drag like sound files. You can drag all like little stuff. It's not like a comprehensive like movie making thing. Like
sure.
The shot that I'm describing, it might just be a person going like, yeah. Like,
yeah, they're not like, it's not Daniel Day-Lewis is out there like delivering. You're like, oh, let me get this angle here. Yeah. I see what
exactly. Like they let you tinker around with it, but it's not like a, replacement for making a movie by any means. But it is a fun novelty that they let you do that, because I feel like that is something that, like, when you're playing a game like this, it's like, yeah, I want to see the movie that the studio makes, right? Like,
yeah.
Basically, whenever you release it, like, you can choose to name the title, or you can just have it give you like a generated title and whatever. And once the movie's finished, it'll flash up a newspaper with critic reviews,
scores. Yeah, sure. See, I mean, it feels like a more kind of I don't know if you've ever played it back in the day. I played the crap out of it, but it was a Game Dev Tycoon. It reminds me of like a more kind of like nitty gritty Game Dev Tycoon.
A tycoon game would be a close comparison.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, like, you're placing down these individual rooms, and something that like I messed around with a little bit I should mention at this point before I go forward
Yeah.
that these are not my usual wheelhouse
Sure.
games.
Right. Yeah.
I've like dabbled with these, but the super kind of systems heavy sort of building out your empire thing is not something that I usually play. So
Yeah.
take what I say with the new perspective, right?
Yeah.
But like basically these rooms you can zoom in and move around your lot, and you can zoom in really close inside the rooms, and you can even customize like the walls and the floor. They have like different like tile options and stuff like that, so
Right.
if you're really into customizing your look down to like every detail,
Yeah.
like you can really kind of get in nitty gritty and like change a lot of stuff and really set it up how you want, in addition to putting like whatever rooms you want together and all that. What it unfortunately devolved into for me was I tried really hard on my first little group of buildings, and then I was like, oh, I want to make another movie at the same time, so let me just place like 4 producers and 5 writers over on the other side, not connecting any of them, not customizing any of them, just so I could hire the people to be able to start another
So do you
movie,
now
right?
like sympathize more with Disney and having been in this, having now like have this power? You've tasted it now.
It maybe all my movies didn't score above a 50. So
Were you trying to start an MCU? Like, what was going on? What was your plan? What was your game plan?
I was trying vampire movies, I was trying comedies, I was trying romance. I couldn't crack the critics,
Oh,
unfortunately.
wow.
They just weren't really having it. But yeah, it's if you're into, like you mentioned, like a tycoon style games, and you are looking for one that is in the realm of film and film history, I think it might be an interesting game to pick up. It does have like a time frame mechanic where it's like you can set what era your studio starts in.
Oh,
So
okay.
like you could start in like the 1920s and it went all the
No
way up to the
sound.
2010s. Yeah, like black and
Sure.
white cameras, all that
Right.
sort of stuff.
The
You can
simpler
choose
time.
which decade to do it in. Whenever I did test this a little bit, I started in the 1940s, and then when I was playing earlier today, I started a new game in the 1980s. And there's these little generated like scenarios that'll happen. Um, like basically,
Like world
just
events type
as
of
an
thing. Oh yeah,
kind of like
give me an example. Yeah, go ahead.
basically the example I would give is when you're starting like the film, like a couple days into filming, like an actor will approach you and be like, "Hey, this rival studio is offering me more. Can you match like their salary or whatever?"
Oh, I
And then you have
see.
like a little option to choose. The thing that was a little bit disappointing was that it was giving me the same scenarios in the same order, regardless of if I was in the 40s or the 80s. Like it was always like the actor
Oh, I
would come
see.
up first. It was always like the studio got robbed, like up next, and like equipment is gone, that sort of thing.
That's
So
unfortunate. So it's not like our randomly generated every playthrough.
yeah, that's what I thought it was going forward. But then yeah, with my new game today, like it was like the
Yeah.
same 5 or 6 scenarios that I hit from the other one.
Well,
But like it does give you like a little bit of like decision making here and there.
yeah.
It's not like crazy, but it has little flavor things like that. And like if you're in the 40s, like you can see like a very small section of road outside of your studio lot, and so like you'll see like period correct cars driving on the street and
Oh,
stuff.
that's a nice
So
touch.
there's little attentions to detail like that. But definitely the bulk of the gameplay is like looking at a lot of menus, like managing a lot of things, like you know what type of projects you're working on, managing people's happiness levels, making sure that you have the proper
Right.
facilities to facilitate everything. And then like we mentioned with like the cameras and the editing, there's like the little like sweet moments in here where you can play around a little bit, but it's definitely like a management tycoon type of
Sure.
experience.
Well, I mean, overall though, like, I mean, like, what's your kind of takeaway, first impressions after the first few hours with the game?
Yeah, it's like I said before, it's if you're into them, I think you'll like it.
Sure.
If you're like me and it's not something that's in your normal wheelhouse, it might be a little bit dense and hard to break through.
Yeah.
A lot of the menu management and stuff like that. Basically, for me, the thing that's the hardest thing to parse is like what information is truly important for me in this one moment versus like, a more minor detail that like I can kind of ignore and pull back into whenever it's necessary. Like it's just kind of like a lot of information at once that you're trying to sift through. So it's a little bit dense in that way. But like I said, like if you're used to tycoon stuff, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, that sort of thing, and you love managing these type of things, definitely give it a check and see if it'd be something that you're interested in. For you, Sri, I'm not sure exactly how much tycoon experience you have, so I'm not sure if it's.
See, I don't have that much tycoon experience, and I was a little bit. I'm going to get into what I was playing instead of this in a second, but I was busy playing that game. But I did install this game on my Steam Deck, and I was like, maybe I'll check it out if I get some time. And then I'm looking at this gameplay now. I'm like, I don't think you can play this on the Steam Deck. I don't think it's.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be hard to read some of those menus on the
Yeah. I mean, it would be really cool. It's the same thing with like, I don't think Game Dev Tycoon ever made it to console either. But yeah, I wish more games kind of adapted to it. I do consider. Look, we'll have a whole, I'm sure, Steam Deck episode at some point. But I do consider the Steam Deck to be like an actual, like the same equivalent as like the Switch. Like it is like the Switch is a console. I think that the Steam Deck is just a console, and I think it's popular enough where I think developers should kind of plan for
push for it a bit more.
Yeah. But I understand. But look, I'm also a realist. Like I understand that I'm not going to run, Cyber. Actually, I think Cyberpunk 2077 does run on the Steam Deck, but Elden Ring, does Elden Ring run on the Steam Deck? I can't tell. I don't even know anymore. But either way, Steam Deck's great. So, speaking of Steam Deck, I guess we'll continue. Instead of that game,
how much is Valve paying you?
I wish, Gabe. I wish, Gabe. And here's the thing, right? I was for the longest time, I was just a guy who just got games on my Steam whenever I saw like a good sale, but I never played. I just don't play games on my PC, or like I just don't have any interest. Like I don't know why. It's just like a thing. I think it's probably from when I was a poor kid with no like good computer. I was just like I can't play games on my computer. My computer will burn up. I
have to play games from the 90s.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's like pre-programmed in me. But speaking of games from the 90s, this is not one, but it certainly feels like it. Now, if you watched the Guerrilla Collective that happened earlier this month, you might have seen this game from Coco Cucumber called Echo Generation Midnight Edition. Now, the original game, I believe, came out in 2019, something like that. Feel free to fact check me, anyone that's feeling righteous today. But this is essentially a kind of a souped up version of that game. So it has kind of updated graphics and kind of some changes that make the whole game a little bit better to play. Let's see if I can. All right, so we have. There's not crazy, but it's essentially there's a visual upgrades, new camera controls, combat updates, fast travel, a quest log, and language support for up to a dozen languages. So those are the kind of all the new stuff wrapped into this package. Now, I had heard of Echo Generation before, and probably because Nick and I were talking yesterday, and we had both played another game from Coco Cucumber without knowing it, and that was Ravenlock. Now, Nick actually reviewed Ravenlock when it came out, and you can read his review on RespawnStation.com. I'm not going to steal his thunder for that. But going into this one, I had heard of Echo Generation, but never played it. I didn't really know much about it. But the trailer during the Guerrilla Collective caught my eye, and so I was like, you know what, let's go for it. And man, Nick, I am 4 hours into this game, I think, so far. So this is definitely first impressions. And when I say first impressions, I do mean like first impressions, more not like Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip, where I had practically beaten the game and I was just kind of finalizing my thoughts. This, I'd say I'm about halfway into the game, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, maybe a little bit less. But Echo Generation is a retro-styled kind of turn-based adventure game where you play as a kid who's just, in the suburbs. It'll be summer, and there's... I'm trying to describe just kind of the vibe of the, it's a small little suburb. You go to one side and there's, the country road, the highway, and then you go to the other side and there's downtown, and then there's like the actual school that everyone goes to. But that is all to say that it has a lot. I mean, it's baked into the kind of the 90s atmosphere. Like it has cassette players, and like the way, like, one of the collectibles in the game is cassettes, and you have to like play them on cassette players found throughout the level. The fast travel that they're talking about, which is convenient, by the way, and I'm glad that they added it. It actually feels it's definitely like feels like a like essentially how you get the fast travel is you get this device, this magical device, and you can connect it to any phone, like phone machine, payphone, in each of the key areas of the game, and it magically you can teleport to it from now, from there on. So it's really not like it's not like lore baked in or whatever. It's just kind of like a thing for convenience. But I totally don't mind because it is helpful. It kind of eliminates some of the kind of downtime, the unnecessary downtime that you might have otherwise had. But so far, the game is just totally not what I expected, right? I mean, I don't know what I was necessarily expecting. I grew up as a turn-based kid playing Pokemon, but until last year where I played Sea of Stars, I didn't really kind of delve back into that genre, wholeheartedly. And here, I feel like I'm so glad I kind of accepted it there, and I'm open to it now here, because I really liked Echo Generation. Now, there's still a chance, like I said, I'm halfway through, that the second half of the game just tanks, it trips on itself and just ends up being just bad. I don't foresee it happening, but if that happens, I'll talk about it next episode on next week. But for what it is here, it's such a kind of... here's first of all, the game is out tomorrow if you're listening to this live. On Nintendo Switch and PC. I believe, I would imagine it might come to the other consoles later, but that's just kind of the information that I have, that I'm currently working with. But the embargo lifted earlier today. But to kind of give you a brief example of my like the effect this game had on me, I'll say, I was recently playing the game about 3 days ago, so before the embargo lifted. I was playing on my Steam Deck, and so far I was like, this is pretty fun. I was having fun with it, and then there comes a point where the game just starts going like, it clicks, and it's like, what? Let me show you something, and it sets up. It actually was in the trailers it's in the trailer for anyone that's watching, and so you kind of briefly see it there, but it is this kind of overlook of a lake, and then there's a sunset in the background, and then there's an area right before that of like some cornfield. I'm not going to ruin it because I don't know if that's in the trailer, but that moment, which is like literally back to back, by the way, that moment really sold me on the game and kind of like told me like, hey, yeah, I'm going to finish this game, because I remember like the music kicked in perfectly at the right time. And it was one of those moments, Nick, that I'm sure you kind of experienced over the years, where the right kind of things happen at the right time, where you're like, all right, I'm in, you got me. And that moment was certainly it. And I took screenshots on the Steam Deck, and I was gonna hop on Discord, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to tell people about how awesome this game is. And then I realized the embargo had not lifted, so I was like, I'll wait a little bit. But that being said, so kind of a few things. I mean, Nick, if you have any questions about the game, feel free to stop me at any time. But the game has a pixelated art style similar to Ravenlock. It's, I think, maybe a little bit different.
I was going to say it looked pretty similar, just stylistically different.
Yes, yep.
Visually pretty similar.
And I mean, some things here I haven't even gotten to, but just like there's a crazy like amount of like, I mean, you're seeing it here, the amount of bosses that there are and the weird stuff that, like, I've again played okay, right at the end there, it's not really a spoiler because it showed it in the trailer, but it was like a prom demon ghost girl. Like, I that's a boss at one point. There's one that looks like it's a freaking like a boss from Horizon Zero Dawn. That was also in the trailer, so I'm not really ruining anything there. So there's some crazy ass bosses, which, by the way, I'm so far doing pretty good. Have only died a few times, Nick, and I'm pretty proud of that. Especially because it's a turn-based game, and not the best. Now,
is there like how's the gameplay in those fights? Because while you were mentioning that, it did remind me of the boss fights in Ravenlock, and I remember that being a pretty high point for me. Because I remember them just standing out visually different, from each other, but also, they were kind of toying around with different like gameplay styles. Does it really get into that, or is it more so like trying to learn different moves and that sort of thing?
It's okay. That's a great transition. So the combat is interesting. When you start off the game, you pick from a variety of different characters. Like, essentially, as far as I understand it, at least so far, it's just kind of the look of the main character. And then, after that, you'll have your sister joins you, and then after your sister, there's like a swappable third slot for the for the party. And then there's like you run a party of 3 pretty much the whole game, the rest of the game pretty much. And you get those side characters kind of just by playing the game, completing side quests. You don't really know, like, there's a journal that they added in this game, which is also part of the Midnight Edition, if I'm correct. And it's so helpful because there's times where I'm just like, what the hell do I do? Where do I go? And so the journal is super helpful. You go to it and it has highlights of like, this person said, and then it'll like green highlight keywords and places that you need to know or remember, which is really nice. So as you do those, you'll get the additional characters. Now, those characters have movesets, and the way you get those movesets is by getting magazines or comic books. So like each kind of comic book you get is an attack of some sort, and each attack only applies to one character. And so there's certain attacks I have, like certain comic books I have, that are for characters I have not yet unlocked. I'm going to guess one of them is a raccoon because it looks like a raccoon on the cover of the comic book. But
is it Sly?
Dude, I'm telling you, this is what you need to play next. It'll give your Sly itch. So there's a mix of kind of third. I don't want to say third-party pets. The third member of the party. There's a mix of kind of options you have. So far, I have a cat and a robot, both of which were completed by kind of doing some kind of, like I said, some side quests. When you get into the actual combat, when you're not running around this kind of... See, would you say open world, Nick? Would you consider like Pokemon to be open world?
Sure. But
right. It's up because
like a small open world, sure.
Yeah, so it's similar to that. Like I said, there's like the suburb, and then you go to the right, and there's like the junkyard and the highway roads, and then left you go to downtown, and as you explore those areas, you'll get into to combat, and the combat is, like I said, turn based, and I didn't really know this. Again, I'm a Pokemon pleb, so like for me, turn-based combat is just like, I pick the move set I want, and the strategy is maybe like type, effectiveness of types or whatever. But for the most part, I thought it was just like, you hit, attack, and you're attacking. That's not quite the case here. Essentially, you pick the attack that you want, and then it kind of flashed on the screen, so you might have caught it in the gameplay in the back. But there's like actual button, like there's kind of mini games or quick time events you have to do. So for one attack, it's spam clicking A until a bar fills up. For another one, it's kind of timing. There's again, you've kind of seen some of these before, where it's like there's a bar and there's a little point kind of moving along the bar, and you have to kind of tap A when it's green, when the bar and the line is in the green. there's like a music rhythm kind of like match the buttons that are on the screen game. So there's a few kind of mixing. There's a healthy mixing of random kind of attack mini games that you play, and those kind of dictate the effectiveness. Like if it's a critical hit or just a not bad attack or whatever. Mm-hmm. And every time you level up, you get the option to upgrade either the strength, the skill, or the strength, skill, or health. I think those are the three things. And currently, and again, I'm not really like super like a build focused person, but I was like, I'm going to play into the characters. So like, I'm currently playing like the older brother, and so I gave myself the strength and health. And then my little sister, I've made her. I've been giving her very little strength, but I've been putting skills into her, like dumping all the skill points into it. So it's like a fun kind of thing to play around with those kind of I guess, class builds, if you will. I don't really know how you'd say it, but with that
different
said,
like skill sets.
Yeah. But man, I really if I haven't said it enough already, the game is good. At least first impressions. Very strong. Cocoa Cucumber. This is the second game I've played from them, and it's looking to be another hit. And absolutely. Again, the game comes out tomorrow on Nintendo Switch and PC. I believe the first Echo generation is on like Xbox as well, because it might actually be on Game Pass. I could be wrong. Feel free to, again, those fact checkers out there. Feel free to fact check. Anything I say, but check it out. I don't know much about the differences between the original kind of like visually. I haven't compared the first like the original game to this remaster, but what is here, it looks awesome. I mean, it's vibrant, it's crisp. I will say right now, my only kind of the two reservations I have regarding this game is that, one, some of the camera angles can get a little weird. So again, this might be something you've picked up from watching the gameplay, but the camera kind of faces one direction. Like you're always kind of looking at the character, like at one side of the world, and then you kind of move in 3D throughout that world, if that makes sense.
Ravenlock was like that, if I recall.
Yes, also, I believe so as well.
Camera.
Yeah. And so this game also has that, but now, and again, I don't know if this is like just in the new game or not, but with the right stick, you can move that camera up or down or left or right. So you can kind of do a little bit of shifting. However, the camera is still a little bit wonky. Like there's no like autocorrect, where it kind of frames for the like frames intelligently, if you will. So like there's certain, a very few, but it's happened a few times where I'll be in a close quarters, like in a garage, for example, talking to someone, and I won't be able to see someone's dialogue because it's like the camera's like shrunk into a certain spot. So stuff like that is a little, kind of muddles the experience a little bit. And also, I mean, I said it a little bit earlier. The only other thing is that, especially at the start, I've gotten a little bit better at it now, and I've gotten used to the hang of the game. But especially at the start, I was really kind of over relying, if you will, on the journal, just because I was like, I don't know where to go. So if that's something really you really that turns you off, or you can't really, that bothers you, then obviously then this will bother you here. But overall, first impressions, Echo Generation, super strong. But come back next week when I'll tell you about my final thoughts of Mapletown.
Right on. I do like the what you mentioned about them interjecting more active elements into the turn-based combat. I think that's always going to elevate certain games over others that are turn-based.
Yeah, and what's okay? No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, sometimes with certain older games. I mean, I know some games were introducing active elements, kind of like the Mario, Super Mario and stuff like that. But sometimes it can just kind of feel like you're just spamming the A button. Like when I was playing Golden Sun last year, like it was just kind of at a certain point you're just kind of on autopilot trying to get through those fights, and whenever you actually have to pay attention and hit some extra stuff, it just makes it a little bit more engaging.
So what I was going to say was, for me, the first game that I'd really done this for was Sea of Stars, like it said. And I think it's like that part of me is still stuck in my like kind of lizard brain, because so in Sea of Stars, the way that the combat works for that is, to keep you actively engaged in the turn-based combat, is that every time like the attack happens, like right as the attack is essentially connecting, you block, or not you block, you press a button in it, and it does like extra damage. So there's like a little like extra little like a shiny animation or sound, and it's a little bit satisfying. But the goal is you have to get it on beat, and there's like this is not a review of Sea of Stars, which if you wanted that, you can check out respawnstation.com. But one of the power-ups is like a boomerang, and you throw the boomerang and it bounces off the enemy and it comes back to the main character. But if you're timing it, so like it hits, like if you press it right as it hits the enemy, and then right as it hits your character, and right as it hits the enemy, you can go for like 30 plus moves. Like you can keep bouncing the boomerang, and so satisfying to get those kind of hits. But playing this game, that's not at all the mechanic, and especially for the first hour. But even now, occasionally still catch myself doing it. I'll press on like when I think it's going to happen, and it screws me over because. Another, I should have mentioned it, earlier, but essentially, in the combat, when you're, some of the attacks, like for example, just the punch, right? Like the special attacks have the kind of combos. If you're just punching or like the base attack, it's just hitting A at the right time. It's just like like a little quick time event. And it's the same thing when you're getting attacked as well. If you're getting attacked, you can, you get that same quick time event. And so. It's definitely screwed me over several times where I'm trying to hit like A on the beat, and it's like off off of when it is. So I've definitely gotten close, but it's still. I mean, I don't know. Like this is one of those games where I always get scared in turn-based combat games where I think I'm gonna hit a point where I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. Like I'm not gonna make it. Like I've gotten, and luckily Sea of Stars had a whole bunch of like, I forget what they're called, but like boosters or buffs or ornaments, whatever, that kind of nerfed some stuff and made the game a little bit easier for new players like me. This game doesn't have that, as far as I see. Like there's like bare minimum settings, but it all works. Also, I'm playing on the Steam Deck. I'll mention that next week as well for the full review. But yeah, I'm playing on the Steam Deck, and no problems here, nothing at all. So perfect. Now,
paycheck number 2 from Gabe.
Dude, they better be coming. They better be in the mail. Now, Nick, I heard you got a ticket to a little place called Skyline Valley, the storm-covered valley, I guess. Coming to Fallout 76, the first ever map expansion to the game. And Nick, as our resident Fallout 76 expert with, let's say, a little over 1,000 hours into the game, what are your thoughts? How are you pre-gaming, first of all, this whole thing? And talk to me about Fallout 76 right now.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Sri, and to put it on the record of, how much of a dedicated Bethesda fan I am,
I never doubted you for a second.
On 76. I've played since the beta. I'm a huge Fallout fan, as that has been established on this podcast multiple times now.
Yeah.
So yes, I do play
Once
76. It is my service game of choice, basically, for better or worse.
Yeah. But, everyone has one. Everyone has one, man. There's no shame in it.
Yep, everyone has one. Everyone has their time sink. So 76 is mine. And but yeah, Skyline Valley is the first, as you said, the first ever map expansion. We've had things like expeditions that take you to new locations, but it's kind of like an instance area where you load into the separate place, you do your mission, and then you come back.
Right.
This is adding an entire new region to the base game's map. And this is pretty much what I have wanted for, like, add-on content for this game.
Yeah.
Some of the earlier stuff was, definitely necessary, and it was, with Wastelanders, that was kind of the game's first big expansion that added like NPCs back into the game. Right?
Sure.
Novel concept. But that added like a new
It's
quest
brilliant.
line. It added the dialogue system in, like it added a lot of stuff that the game needed. And then later on we got uh, Steel Dawn, and the two parts of that, which were like the Brotherhood of Steel has been introduced, and there's a new quest line with that.
Yeah.
But they were all locations in the base game's world. There was like new interiors you would go in, and
Sure.
like they might change a location. Like the Brotherhood of Steel took over an observatory like weather station. So like
Right.
the
Right.
location in game now is not what it was when the game came out. Like it's changed.
Right.
But this Skyline Valley is entirely new locations. It's obviously set in the Shenandoah Valley, so based on the actual place and Skyline Drive.
Yeah.
We have a new quest line to go on, where a vault on the map has had its door blasted open, and it's blown like halfway across the map. It's in an entirely different region
Oh, damn.
of the map, which it's little things like that are always really cool. But yeah, the vaults are so interesting with 76. I don't want to go on too many tangents here,
Sure.
but
Sure.
initially they were planned to be like kind of like raid zones, that like I guess people would party up and go do like a specific mission inside of. That eventually got scrapped. So for the longest time, all the vaults on the map were just closed, and like the only way we knew what was inside was hackers and people like clipping through and finding out
Sure.
what was inside those areas, right? So that was eventually scrapped. Then they started using the locations in daily ops, which was another kind of like separate mode, kind of grind to get rewards kind of thing that you can do in the game.
Uh huh.
Uh, but those are like very structured and kind of gamey and stuff. This vault actually feels like a vault from like a Fallout 3 or a Fallout 4, where you're kind of exploring the different
That's cool.
wings. There's unique characters. There's a unique story. So yeah, so far I'm only a little bit into the story of this update. The 76 updates usually aren't like super long from the questing perspective. It's usually only like 4-ish hours, maybe a little bit more, depending on how slow you go.
Yeah.
But I've done a couple quests, and yeah, like the storytelling is really cool. Because of 76's unique timeline placement, it only being 25 years after the bombs fell.
Yeah.
Basically, this vault, I will say, is full of ghouls. And so there's like some interesting dialogue where they're like wondering if other people outside look like they do and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
because it hasn't been as long in this world. So basically, all that to say, the story is pretty cool so far. The new locations are definitely the big draw for me. I love exploring worlds in Bethesda games,
Yeah.
and so just getting any new content of that style, finding new locations, finding new little side stories or environmental storytelling things, or that's the bread and butter that we're here for.
Right.
And there's also some new public events that you can play.
Oh, nice.
One of them is kind of like how they've been adding events into the game, where it's kind of like basically just a group area for a bunch of people to go shoot some enemies and get some rewards, more or less.
Uh huh.
So in this one, you're like defending / attacking this like a lightning station, basically, as it like collects electricity. There's some story reasoning for that pertains to the giant red storm that's in the
Sure.
region.
That's just like perpetually over the whole valley.
Yeah, it all kind of ties together with like the main quest too. But like I
It
said,
does give
I'm
the
only
game
a
a nice like like a non. I don't know. I guess maybe New Vegas had a similar tint, maybe, but like for me, like Fallout's like that green tint, or like.
Mm-hmm.
So it does. It is nice to see the Fallout kind of the gameplay with something that's not that same kind of.
Yeah, I didn't actually put two and two together, but New Vegas's expansion, Dead Money, is very red.
Oh, okay.
It might be a little bit reminiscent of that. But the other event is also really cool. It's a new boss tier event, which there's a couple of these in the game. Basically, to trigger boss tier events, it requires somebody on the map to launch a nuke in a specific region, and it'll spawn a boss tier event that everybody can join and fight like a big boss. And this one, if anybody nukes anywhere in the Skyline Valley region, it will cause an event to pop up at the weather station, essentially. And there's these giant robots that come out. They're like weather control robo brain kind of robots. And basically there's 3 of them in this area. And whenever you take out one robot, the remaining ones get stronger. And there's also these like giant doors that kind of cut off sections of the arena. So there's some interesting stuff going on. Like a lot of the other boss tier events, though, it is just kind of like a bunch of people, shooting it till it dies. Like, you're not really like learning attack patterns all that much.
Sure.
But it for what it is, just to kind of put a bow on it, this is probably some of the best like add-on content that 76 has gotten.
Sure.
And from recent interviews with Todd Howard, it sounds like this might be the direction going forward that they're going to look to for future content. So that's exciting for me personally.
Nice.
And as with all the other expansions and stuff like that, it is free. So it's just on the game and everybody can
just access it.
And play it.
Yeah. No, I'm honestly, this is one of those things where I'm currently, if I wasn't between 2, games already, there are, like service games, if you will. Mm-hmm. I think X Defiant, it's free to play, and then you have The Division, which is also kind of, I think is more fitting comparison to Fallout 76. But if I wasn't there, I would love to go back to Fallout 76. And you know what, Nick? I have yet to see your goddamn house. All right, I have had a video titled in my head for like a year and a half. All right, like house tour with 1,000+ hour player done. It would have been baked. It was perfect. Now the game's not even installed right now. I gotta get. How big is this game? You remember?
Gig wise?
Yeah.
Frustratingly big.
Really interesting.
It wasn't always like this, but with all the expansion content, I think it has raised the size. Basically, also this gets into a separate thing, but it might be something that you've interacted with, Sri. Certain PS4 games on PS5, when you're going to install them or update them, have you noticed that they require like the entire space of the game to be free to install and update? Yeah. That happens with 76, and whenever I have an update, it says I need like 130 gigs free or something to install these updates, and I really don't understand why PlayStation 4 acts that way, because that was consistent with every game on that console, and now even on PS5, I run into it with any PS4 games I'm playing. It's like it's such a weird restriction.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, and it's kind of just off the topic of game sizes, but when we did the Xbox Games Showcase, and they had the Call of Duty thing, at some point, like I guess because the Black Ops 6 right after that went up on like digital stores, someone spotted that on the, I believe, Xbox store or the Microsoft store, whatever it was, Black Ops 3's size was listed as 300 gigs. And I think it's I think it's real, and I think it's because it now comes like bundled with Black Ops. So it's Black Ops 6, but then also Warzone, and then I think Modern Warfare stuff is also kind of all kind of looped into one thing there. Because even I played Call of Duty Vanguard a few months ago, and it was really weird because like the menu for Vanguard kind of looks like the Call of Duty Modern Warfare menus, and you kind of navigate them similarly. And then you can like trigger one through the other. I think it's probably designed for PC players. Those goddamn hooligans. With that said, though, I think that's all the stuff that we've talked about. An hour, a meaty chunk of what we've been playing. Probably the meatiest, I think.
It's been a lighter play period for the last couple weeks, so I think this one was about due.
Yes, yeah. So I think we kind of both approached this at the same time, because I had 2 games that I had to say that were all, didn't have much to say about before because of an embargo, and I didn't bleed the game, so Yeah. But no, obviously now that brings us to, once again, the main topic and kind of the I guess the news at the same time. But actually, I want to say a few quick things before that. So I think Summer Game Fest now officially over. And I was catching up on some stuff that I may have missed, kind of just about Summer Game Fest. And there's a deep dive on the Xbox podcast about Avowed. Okay, I was trying to think of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't know this, Nick, but did you know that Avowed is set in the same universe as Pillars of Eternity?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this.
So.
This is crazy. So I was sitting there, she's like, the person presenting was like, it's set in the same universe. I was like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, looks better in the deep dive than I thought in the trailer. I don't think the trailer kind of super sold me, but the deep dive was just kind of a little bit more closer look at it. I still think that there's, while I think, and I think you had said this on stream when we or something like that. You had said this before, I think, but essentially, this definitely feels like Avowed is the Skyrim response to like Outer World being a Fallout response type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I still think that it has a. I don't want to say double A because I feel like that those A's, they're all over the place. So I don't want to say that it has that kind of quality to it because there are certain things that are like really impressive, especially nighttime. The game has like a really nice kind of crazy fidelity to it. But there's something about the gameplay that's a little bit. I don't know. Did you catch that as well from Avowed?
I didn't get to see the behind the scenes stuff,
well,
but I definitely get what you're putting down. Like,
sure.
I do think, if we have to bring the A's into it, I do think AA befits some of the stuff from Obsidian. Like, obviously, I like a lot of Obsidian's games, but I do think that they more so punch above their weight than exactly being like, these super high budget kind of games. It's not really something that they really strive for. Like, Outer Worlds is probably like their most highest budget kind of experience, and like you said, Avowed is, I would say, pretty similarly scoped to that game.
Yeah, but still, I mean, look, I haven't played Outer Worlds. You have, so feel free to say if like it was that game was like a warning against not playing Obsidian again or something. But looks cool. I do actually want to play the Outer Worlds because it definitely has a lot of the characteristics of things I like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, and then
it's a fun one. I mean, if you played Fallout New Vegas, you'll feel pretty at home on that. It's not exactly open world, and obviously some of the style.
That was actually the weirdest. Weirdly enough, that was the thing that put me off about it. So for some reason, I was like, it's not open world, and then, but then I'm also fine with it in Starfield. So it was like I'm maybe I am a hypocrite in that way, but yeah.
It's really like. It's not that big a deal when you're playing it. It's multiple like hub areas, and so you still get like different hot zones, I'll say, on the map. Like, take like the opening planet for instance. You have like the main town, and then you have like some facilities over here. You have some camps over here. You have a big cave over in this area, and then like little paths and little points of interest in the middle. So like it still kind of gives you that. Some of the same feelings of like exploring like a big open area, just not like, kind of what I feel without having the experience that you have with Echo Generation, but sort of how like Ravenlock or Echo Generation had it, where it's like, you're kind of placed in this area. There's places and paths to go down, but like, it's not just like every planet in one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Avowed looks cool. Also, I forget that they're Grounded, and that they've also gone, because Grounded is also on PlayStation, I think, right? Or at least it's one of the games listed to come out on PlayStation. But another quick hitter, just kind of going through the simple stuff before we get into the meaty chunk of this episode. So, X Defiant. I've talked about this game once or twice before, and look, I can now confirm that Ubisoft does listen to the podcast, because this Friday they're adding Team Deathmatch to the game. No, this has been something that's been like super highly requested. I think I'm definitely one of the people that's shouting from the rooftops, like, you know, with my shirt ripped off. But there's been also like a lot of other people kind of asking for it. So the fact that they're doing it so fast, for me, right? I was thinking, oh, this would make sense for them to say, you know, this is the additional game mode coming with Season 1, would be the logical thing that I thought of. But no, because Season 1's getting Capture the Flag, as we discussed last episode, and here, just this Friday, in 3 days, just randomly, they're adding, they're adding Team Deathmatch, and also this, like I said, I've been really enjoying how the pace at which this game's been getting updates. I mean, earlier today they put out a new patch that totally reworks and it's a little controversial patch right now, but it totally reworks the weapon leveling, so that the weapon attachments are easier to earn. Essentially, it's 500 less XP to earn per attachment or per level to earn, if that makes sense. And but the camos, like the gold and silver, bronze, like those, like the mastery camos, are harder to earn. However, if you've already gotten like a gold on a gun, you like. Also, I should say, these changes are retroactive, which is kind of cool. So, but essentially what that means is that if, you know, like, it'll look at the amount of XP you have and then just give you the attachments up to where you are after the update goes live. So, like, I logged in and I realized I had like 3 new attachments for the AK-47 that I didn't have before. So it was like a nice, or 2 at least. That was nice, but yeah, but instead of hitting level 100 with your weapon and getting the gold camo, you have to hit level 200 now. Bronze is level 100. Luckily, I had my 2 favorite weapons in the game so far. I've gotten the gold already, and once you've gotten the gold, they're just like, you can have it. Like, you've earned it, you got it, so I have my gold.
Okay, when you were saying that it was retroactive, I was wondering if they were, like, taking camos away from people.
But again, that's the thing. They're doing it smart. They could have easily, you know, done that. You know, said you have to earn it again or whatever. But I really appreciate the kind of, again, Mark Rubin, that whole team. But I mean, I follow Mark Rubin directly, so I kind of see like his kind of direct, like, you know, he tweeted out earlier today, like, hey guys, like, how many levels are you going up per game in the, like, you know, just kind of to find out metrics. So that's another X Defiant update for you. You know, I should have like a special section of the show that's just for X Defiant updates. And this is
what did they call it in the game? X debrief.
X debrief. Yep.
Just take that. This is your weekly X debrief.
Yeah, yeah. Before their first one, which I think is like July 1st or something, before season 1 starts. So I'm sure we'll have coverage of the X debrief coming out soon. Now this one, Nick, I don't know if you've seen this, and it was just like, sort of just something I wanted to shout out, and also something I think you would find interesting. So I was on Twitter earlier, and I came across this. Hold on, I'll pull it up. Just so I think it's just this. Okay, so there's this 21-year-old solo game dev that's currently working on a game that doesn't have a distinct title, but if I was to give it a title, it would be like, I would say like Ultimate Indie Racing is what I have down in my notes. I think that's also like the kind of the work in progress title. Again, I don't know if that's the full official title or not, but essentially this is imagine like a Mario Kart racing game that is with indie characters. And this is a really weird project that's gotten a little bit of steam kind of over the last few days, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because every day over the last few days they've been adding new kind of game properties to the game. So one that I know that Nick will enjoy is the crab from that game he just played. what's it called?
Another Crab's Treasure.
Yeah, I believe that one's in there.
Oh, nice.
And essentially, like, you can add like indie games can add their characters into the game, and then in return, there's billboards on the racetracks, and your game can be on those billboards. But
oh, nice.
I thought that was like a cool little thing. And so far, I think they said there's 40 indie game characters. Yeah, so I'm just I'm pulling it up as I see it. It's from, if you want to know more about it, it's at Zorro Rats on Twitter. Again, 21 years, or no, I don't know if it's saying 21-year-old game dev or 21 years solo game dev. I don't know which one it is. It could be 21 years of experience. But either way, check that out. It's a really cool one. And yeah, like I said, there's been quite a few indie game characters already added, and so maybe one of your favorites will appear.
You see, that's a good a good implementation of in-game billboards.
Yeah,
we get these articles every time that always sound like threats, where it's like we're thinking about adding ads into our games, and it's just like, you just, the mind doesn't have to travel far to realize, how mishandled that's going to be. But this is,
do you remember in, I want to say it was Burnout Paradise?
It was.
Where they had Barack Obama ads? Yeah, that was... That was
That's a weird example.
We need to get back to that, is what Nick is saying, guys. That's what you need to quote him for. We need more Barack Obama ads in game billboards.
I also, love me my Tony Hawk games, and those have some pretty great, random product placement.
Yeah, honestly, that's a totally fine way of monetization. Like, I feel like that's not as intrusive as something like, as they're saying, like, like just mid-game ads, or like
just like commercials.
Yeah, or and one thing, I don't know if this was like an actual, I hope I'm not giving some greedy exec an idea, but like essentially when you pause, like, when I'm watching YouTube on my TV, if I pause, it goes, or actually Netflix, I should say. If I pause on Netflix, it goes to an ad. Like it shrinks the screen, and then the rest of the screen, like it shrinks my like play screen, and then the rest of it becomes an ad. So when I'm pausing the movie or the show, it's an ad. And in my head, I was like, oh, that's what they're gonna do. Like, oh, we pause the game and then an ad pops up. But honestly, like, you're doing that anyway. I mean, you pause a game and you're if I pause The Division, I see, I can pull up the in-game store and buy shit. So it's already like, Anyway, with that said, let's get into the, should I say this now? Screw it. I'll say it now. Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun Forges of Corruption is out now. The DLC that is, I believe, $15. I could be wrong. Don't check me on the fact check me on the price. But nevertheless, it is the new expansion for Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun, which we have obviously talked about on this podcast before. And you can either get that as the DLC separately, or there's a new edition of Bolt Gun that's Forges of Corruption Edition, which comes with the base game and new DLC. And this DLC adds, obviously, this kind of story expansion, as well as a Horde mode that people have apparently been dying for.
DLC on Steam is $5.99.
Oh shit! Not even, don't quote me on $5.99. God, that's worth it. That's worth it for sure. So for the Emperor, go check out Bolt Gun. Now, Nick, it's time to talk about that new Nintendo Direct, because I think we've kind of framed it in this way. Actually, I think Nick framed it in this way. So I'm curious to see if Nick, do you think this is the last Nintendo Direct solely around the Nintendo Switch? Because I mean, if you look at the title on Nintendo's website, right, it says Nintendo Switch in the title of the Direct. Just saying.
I would put my chips on yes. that's not to say that like, every Nintendo Direct going forward is not going to have a Switch game in it or something. Like, I don't think that they are going to be as cut and dry with that. And obviously they're still going to keep the Nintendo Direct, like, naming scheme. But as far as how they've been describing these as being like, we're not going to have any mention of the Switch successor, I think come September, when we usually have our like third kind of direct for the year, I do think we are going to know what that system is, and we're going to start seeing games on, that new hardware. I think technically, we don't need to get into it right now, but I do think that we did see a little bit of that today, or at least a Switch version.
Yeah, no, we will get to, we will definitely, because I think Nick and I both had the same reaction, and it's funny because Nick typed it out, and so I typed it out, and I was like, no, I'm going to mention it in the podcast, and then I didn't send it, and then Nick sent it to me, and I was like, oh well, I guess we both agree. But first, okay, let's talk about some of the highlights here. Personally, if we're talking about overall, just the show in general. Oh man, I know some people. I know I'm gonna get hate for this, Nick. This is your episode. This is your time to win. Was not a huge fan of the showcase. If the state of play wasn't so bad, in terms of like just had like no real hype moments, other than Astrobot. Astrobot was the only thing that really carried that state of play. But if Astrobot wasn't there, if that state of play wasn't there, I should say. Then I would have said this was my like the most kind of like hype I got during a because that's how I look at it. A showcase for me is like how many hype moments. But that being said, I know you Nintendo nerds, all right, for the alliteration, are like fully engaged in this. So, Nick, let's talk about it. So the first big announcement was Mario and Luigi Brothership, which was the first new Mario and Luigi game in like almost a decade, I think, right? So, what'd you think?
So it's cool. Mario and Luigi is one series from Nintendo that I have not really gotten into. I kind of missed those games. Mario in general, like, I would say until the last like decade, I never really like got into, right? It was definitely more like, anytime Nintendo was involved, it was Zelda for me.
Yeah.
And that's what, holds my, my heart and brain.
And we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mario and Luigi, these are basically, if I am aware of the history properly, Paper Mario, Mario RPG was a collaboration between Square Enix and Nintendo. At some point in that collaboration, some party, I guess, didn't want to continue with that exact sort of mix, of like IP or whatever. Well, not to say that there's like other IPs in Mario RPG, but like basically they wanted more RPGs. So Nintendo then went into the Paper Mario series, and then the Mario and Luigi series, I think, was maybe supposed to be along the same lines, but for handhelds, because I believe they're all on like they started on Game Boy Advance, DS and 3DS. So
was there?
It's primarily like a handheld. RPG series.
No, I was gonna say, was there not one on Wii U? But I don't think so.
I think it was Paper Mario.
Oh, okay.
Wii U. I think maybe Paper Mario is like the console ones, and
Mario
Luigi,
right.
I guess was like that.
Yeah.
That's at least my quick read on it. Yeah, this game, it has a pretty interesting art style. I think the animations look nice. The weird kind of thing surrounding this is that there was a studio, I don't think Nintendo owned them, but a studio that was developing the Mario and Luigi games called Alpha Dream, if I recall correctly. But they were closed down like a year or two ago. And so we don't really know currently who's developing this game, outside of it just being a Nintendo studio. So that's neither here nor there. I think it's it's one of those Nintendo announcements that's like, it's like, oh, Mario and Luigi, but like it's not like a megaton. I would say
Mario and Luigi. That's what it makes you say.
Yes. Yeah, like it's it's gonna sound weird saying this, but it's a Mario and Luigi Brothership weird subtitle.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's like, oh, that's clever, or like, what the fuck.
It sounds like a fake word, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. It is a fake word, right?
I guess real now.
Oh yeah.
But basically, it's the perfect Nintendo Direct opening announcement, right? Like, it's something that is recognizable. It's something that, like, you can kind of attach to. It has a little bit of history, but it's not like, it's not going to get most people jumping out of their chairs screaming.
Right. I think. Yeah. The okay, so now obviously we're going to go through some of our, let's say, highlights of the show, because we're not going to go into like Fairy Tale 2. I haven't even watched the show. I don't know, because the game, apparently you relive the story of the story of the game or the anime or the manga. Mm-hmm. But I don't know the story. So but anyway, I dropped the subject. So we're only going to go through the big games, the ones that are like, we really want to kind of talk about. So Nick, the obvious next game that I'm going to talk about, I mean, if you know, you know. It's Wii Sports, baby. I mean, it's Nintendo Switch Sports. Nintendo Switch Sports is getting basketball. Honestly, no joke, probably one of the most hype moments of the show for me. Did not care much for most of the other games, except two others, I'll say, that got me my interest peaked. But other than that, dude, I mean, look. I plan on doing an entire episode on this, so I'm not going to say everything now. But like, I strongly believe that my weight loss journey started with Wii Sports. It was one of the games. It was one of those things that really put me on back, like, what, 2 years ago now, and I've lost 40 pounds since. So I'll always be a fan of Wii Sports and Switch Sports as well. It's not quite the same. It's a little bit like too good. You know what I mean? It's like
I think it's
technology has passed too far.
It's definitely the characters, right? Like the Mii's kind of had like, that charm to them, and like the new characters, because they're not really Mii's.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I think there's something weird about it, but yeah, I've not played Switch Sports, but it definitely feels like a Switch Sports add-on, right? Like,
yep, absolutely.
They kind of put everything out on display. I feel like you just watch a little bit of this trailer and you're like, yep, if I play, that is what I'm going to.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And then they do the same thing. They show you like the real life videos of people doing it, so you get this. Oh, that's how I play.
It's cool that it's a free update.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would be a very hard pill to swallow if they tried to ask for money
for low price, $7.99. But yeah, okay. So the next game, that was a quick topic. The next game didn't really know about until this showcase. It was Mio: Memories in Orbit. It's a Metroidvania that's currently coming out, planned to come out in 2025 to consoles and PC. But this is this is the first game. This is the second game from Focus Entertainment and Doze Dexemes. Oh my God, what a name for that studio! But the first game they worked on was Shady Part of Me, and then this one is let's see, you play as a robot called Mio, and you have to explore and conquer the vessel, a gigantic maze-like spaceship, to save it from extinction. And yeah, I thought this one just looked cool, and also just the general kind of the whole style. I thought
yeah, it has a very striking, like, painterly kind of art style with like, kind of like pencil lines, and it's not like cel shaded, but
yeah,
definitely
no, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, and so I thought that was like a cool one to kind of shout out. So check out Mio: Memories in Orbit. It was officially revealed at that showcase. Speaking of revealed at this showcase, Nick, okay, I don't want to take too much time to talk about probably the game of the show. Personally, I'm throwing this in there just I think you know where I'm going with this, but I think it's time we put the fun in this episode by talking about Funko Fusion. Dude, why was this here? This looks not good. This does not look like a finished game. And
yeah,
is this from Game Mill? Dude, okay, hold on. Nick, can you do me a favor? Is this from Game Mill? Can you look up if this is from Game Mill?
Let me see here real quick.
I'd be crazy if it was. I don't know if it is.
Let's see here. It does not appear to be from Game Mill.
Okay. All right. I just had to check. But no, this game, look, I'm just shocked this was involved. Like, I don't understand why this is here. Like, how did Nintendo, I guess 1010 Games is who's making this one. Look, no hate to 1010 Games, but like when you have, a T-Rex coming out of breaking out of a Funko box, right? At least have at least have it break. Like, the dinosaur is just phasing through the plastic. It's not breaking the plastic. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, this one is...
I don't get it. I don't usually like to bring up stuff that I'm like, oh, this was just caught me off guard. But like, this was I just did not make sense. I was watching it and I was like, this doesn't fit. And
there's Nintendo Directs in the past where
it would have perfectly belonged.
Rough, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll see like frame rate drops. You'll see hardcore anti-aliasing or whatever. Like you'll see evidence of compromise. Let's put it nicely.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's safe to say that a lot of this game looks compromised. So yeah, it's this one's maybe looking a little rough. Maybe it needs a little bit more time in the oven.
I hope it gets it, man. I hope it gets it. And all right, so here's the thing, right? Actually, I'm going to change courses partway through this segment because again, this is the main show. We can take it how we want. Don't take the pause. Don't take that out of context. So let's, Nick. I said there's 3 games or 3 moments that got me hype. All right, that piqued my interest. I should say, actually, not got me hype. Piqued my interest. I want you to talk about the games that really kind of caught your eye. We have the list in front of us, but then I want you to try to see if you can predict the 2 others because I already mentioned one. So give me the 2 others that. And there is a fourth. I guess I should say there's a third that's like hype, but like not for me, but like for other people, I'm hype. You know what I mean?
So, just so I have the record straight here, Switch Sports Basketball was one of your moments. Yes.
Yes. I don't know why. I feel like you had a twinge of judgment in there, but yes, it was.
Don't read too far. Let's see. From this list, I'm going to say, and knowing what you all like to play, was Super Mario Party Jamboree one of those for you?
Oh, okay. So was it for you? I'm just like, what are your thoughts on Super Mario Party Jamboree?
Not. I appreciate what Mario Party does. I think it is probably the quintessential party game for anybody really that like wants to have something to throw on to be like a little bit competitive with friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Specifically the Super Mario Party art style I do not like. I think it is very generic looking for as creative. And
for me, as someone who's not a Mario person, like this is what Mario looks like to me in my head, you know what I mean? Because like this is all like, I mean, this is, again, I really don't play a lot of the Mario games. I played, the only one I played was Super Mario Odyssey. But other than that, like I played some Mario Kart, and then also it's a lot of Mario Party after that. So for me, this is the style. This is what Mario looks like.
That's funny because like to me, like I will look at Super Mario Odyssey or even Mario Kart and be like, that looks so much better than the Super Mario Party game. Like I don't know what it is, but like maybe it's just the UI. It's just like
it
very
could be.
like, plain
it could be.
And stuff. Like yeah,
by the way, I have to mention really fast is where obviously with this new again Respawn Station podcast 1.2 update, we can now look at things too. But one of the things in Goomba Lagoon they advertise is that like the weather changes, so it's not just Assassin's Creed Shadows, guys. It's not just high tech next gen games. All right,
Nintendo's getting in on the fun too.
Yeah.
I figured that might have been one though, because of like you guys are always streaming together and stuff and doing
that's
kind of
a totally fair guess. Not it, because I also don't like. I only play. It's like I only play Mario Party when I'm peer pressured to play Mario Party. So like it's when other people are around me. It has 20 player. Like the new update has 20 player multiplayer. I mean, look, I don't know who Nintendo thinks I am. I don't have that many friends. Okay, I'm not filling up. I can barely fill up a couch of 3. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
That definitely felt like we're gonna throw that in for the streamers.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely, yeah. Look, I'm sure that someone I know, and I'm going to say Austin because that's usually who it ends up being. He's the Nintendo shill. We'll pick up this game and I'll play it. But yeah, no, this was not one of the games that got me super excited. How about you? Okay, give me another one. Damn, Austin, I said his name and he was in chat. He just appeared. I was just saying you're my Nintendo sugar daddy. That's what I was saying.
So if we're talking about ones that like I specifically was really into that you might also be into.
Okay.
I mean, let's get the big one here. Was it Metroid Prime 4 Beyond?
Okay, yeah, we can talk about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. So this was the one more thing of the showcase, right? And so this was I'll give you this. This was the one that I was excited for other people because I have literally never played a Metroid game before. So I have no connection to Metroid. I know people went ape shit over this. I haven't watched any reaction videos, but I know people like, Tim Geddes over there over on Kinda Funny. I'm sure he just went, So for them, I thought I'm happy for it. And also, I don't understand, Nick. I don't understand how first-party Nintendo games look so good, but like every other like Nintendo port looks ass, dude. I don't get it. I apologize for yelling.
Because they're the masters.
This game does not make sense. Now look, Nick, I'm not going to put this out there. This is not a conspiracy theory I'm willing to put out there, but just bear with me. Go on this trip. Did they ever say that this is Nintendo Switch footage?
Yeah, they have implied that everything in here is Nintendo Switch footage.
Okay.
Basically what, we were alluding to earlier, between you and I think based on them showing the date of 2025 at the end, I think this is, without a shadow of a doubt, going to be launching on both the Nintendo Switch and the Switch successor.
Yes. Yeah.
This is, I think if you look close enough and like you have, a trained eye.
Oh shit! I just realized the thing in the back behind the logo is like that thing from Interstellar. It's like the black hole with the. I just realized as it paused on the screen. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's. I think we're definitely seeing Switch footage. I just think the game looks really good, honestly.
It does, dude.
But yeah, like without a shadow of a doubt, I would say this is launching on both systems. Like this, I was watching this with a buddy of mine earlier, and tell me how you feel about this. I said that this game, obviously, I've seen some Metroid Prime stuff here and there. I've played the 2D games, but I have not gotten into Prime yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, it looks like Prime, but it was also giving me like Halo vibes.
Dude, yeah, that's exactly what caught my eye about it too. Yeah, definitely a lot of. I mean, I like the enemies specifically look like the. I can't think of their names. I'm not good with the
elites or like the jackals.
Yes,
probably.
yeah. From Halo. Yeah, so that's definitely what caught my eye. They definitely had a lot of Halo vibes. I also did pick up on that. Prime for GameCube was amazing, says Austin. Only game I rebought when I rebought a GameCube.
Yeah, I have the GameCube version and I have the remaster on Switch.
Also, I have to shout out to this shot where you can see the bad dude's reflection in her visor. That's cool. Yeah,
this was definitely a highlight for me, though. I love those 2D Metroid games, and whenever I get into Prime, which is likely going to be
2025,
the next couple months here,
2025, yeah. We got to really.
Well, I'm going to be playing the other games leading up to it. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Do you think this is a early 2025? I would say, okay, here's my prediction, right? I think April or May, the new Switch comes out, and I think that this is the same thing, and this was how I equated it, was the same way Breath of the Wild was a bridge between the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch. I think this is Metroid Prime 4. Sorry, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will be the bridge between the next Switch and this one.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you on that. I think it is going to just be, it'll launch the same day that the new console comes out. But yeah, Nintendo really, for all of the stuff that like they do from interesting gameplay perspectives and stuff, I do think that occasionally some of their games do kind of fall into that criticism that I give Sony as well, where it's like, we have a lot of like adventure-y, platformer-y kind of games from Nintendo. They don't do much first-person shooters, and Metroid Prime was one of those. So I think it just stands out purely from that perspective shift alone from all of their other games. But yeah, it also helps that, the game looks awesome. And honestly, like, I don't think that this trailer that they showed is like a great trailer. Like,
it was a weirdly edited trailer because like it shows you like just like a little bit of gameplay just so you're like, hey, it's real. But then it's like the weirdest snippets of gameplay for, I mean, at least maybe like, again, maybe after your binge of Metroid Prime is over, you're like, this is a reference to this character from this game. Maybe that's a thing, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird trailer, but like, the game has just been MIA for so long, and like, pretty much just like the second I saw the first word come on
the
screen,
green text.
Like, all right, it's Metroid.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah, like, I think the first line filled in. I was like, this is Metroid. They're doing this now. It does make sense that they're doing this now after I've seen it, and again, I think that not to hypothesize on rumors and that kind of stuff too long, but I would say that the last I heard, the Switch Pro is like operating on the power of a PS4, like a base PS4, I think, right?
I think that's the.
And by the way, I mean, we're saying with that processor, like with that power, I should say, not just like it's not going to play. Well, I say that as if like it's like an insult, but then also, like Killzone Shadowfall is like one of the best looking games. Period. Like that game's ridiculously good looking for being just a PS4 launch title. So to see Nintendo work with that kind of power, if that is what it is, man, if they can do Breath of the Wild on a Switch, what could they do on a home console? I could only dream. Will that be a thing? I mean, there's been a lot of talk, and I think even between us about like, hey, like, will the next one be a home console or just like another handheld or like a mix, I should say, because it's worked out so well for them here. So I don't know. Wait till September. All right, so you got that one. That means there's two more. You're missing the two actual moments that I was like, all right, this is it for me.
Yeah, I gotta look in here. I have another one that's like an out-of-pocket guess that I'm not 100% positive on.
Sure.
Would it be Tales of the Shire?
Wow, out of pocket. That's the one, Nick. That's the one.
Okay.
Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game. I had heard about this game before, but it was so nice to finally see it here. And look, I'm a sucker for Lord of the Rings, guys. I mean, and you can be a hobbit just doing his thing in a little hobbit hole. I mean, I don't need more. It's chill stream, chill game.
Yeah, certain games, especially with Lord of the Rings, I think kind of just write themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like this just kind of makes sense. This type of a game. I think that whatever the one that came out like last year, before the dwarf one. Not Gollum. the one in the Mines of Moria. Dude, it's funny that you say that. My
it is a cozy Hobbit game, yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
My buddy, when we were watching it, he said that it was like he mentioned Gollum, and I completely forgot about Gollum. And so whenever he said that, it like lit up my brain, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a real game that exists. But yeah, I think this is probably gonna do pretty well. Obviously, again, not really...
I think this is a game that's perfect on the Switch. Like it feels right at home on that console, being like just something you can, or the Steam Deck, just being able to dip in and dip out as it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Hobbit, Animal Crossing, like
right. Now, Nick, this one's not one that is on my list, but I'll talk about it just to get your thoughts on it. It is Stray. It's coming to the Nintendo Switch. Another game, speaking of games that feel like people would probably like on the Nintendo Switch. But here, it could be the fact that I think that on the PS5, this game had such high fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
It does not look good here. I don't.
I think it looks decent for a Switch port, but yes, it's it definitely has those signs of compromise in it.
I mean, if I really think you have to live like as a Switch player, right? There has to be a ticked off box that you have that's like, I can excuse this. Where it's like, if a game came out like this, obviously on like. If a game performed like this, even on the PS4, you'd be like, it looks like ass. But on the Switch, you're like, I could see how it happened.
Right,
like this is not the way to play this game. Trust me. Just don't buy it on PS5. Watch it and watch a 4K walkthrough of the game and donate the money to the developers. This is not the way to experience this game.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting prospect, right? Because you have, on the one hand, you have the PS5 version, which looks like, super nice and everything, and obviously it's tailored for your console and everything. But then you also have, like, well, I could take it portably on Nintendo Switch. But then you also have, like, the Steam Deck, which probably would look closer to the PS5, I imagine.
I would,
running the Steam version than the Switch version. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, I would say. But, I mean, if all you have is a Switch and you really want to play it...
Yeah.
I think it'll probably fine.
All right, Nick, what's your next guess? Obviously, we know Funko Fusion's off the case, so...
See, there's a couple here that I just...
You can also talk about ones you're excited for. You don't have to just keep guessing mine.
I like guessing yours.
Okay.
But, I mean... off the topic, let's talk about the other big one for me personally. And that would be The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom.
Yes. The game that I don't think anyone saw coming. Did you?
Yeah, I think you can...
I thought this was going to start off as a remake of that other one, the older one. I can't think of the name. But, one of the numerous Zelda games that have existed. But the one there's like one that has this specific style. Is it Minish Cap? No.
This one was, this art style was from the Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening, that's what it is. Okay, yes, yes. I thought that was something like that. But then, yes, obviously, like it takes a little bit of a twist. And then, you get to see the reveal of what that twist is.
That Zelda is playable.
Yes.
For the first time since the Zelda CDI game, Zelda's Adventure.
I made a great joke on Twitter in response to Nick. I don't think enough people have seen it to appreciate it. So this game, obviously called Nick. I'm going to repeat the joke here just so I can get the credit I need. So this game's called The Legend of Zelda. The Echoes of Wisdom. So I thought it was a little bit of a shame that it didn't stick with the classic nomenclature of the series and name it The Legend of Link after the character that you don't play as. But regardless, Echoes of Wisdom though, cool ass name. Same thing with Breath of the Wild. Like it has that same kind of power. Is power the right word? Like I don't know.
It feels important.
Yeah. Sure.
It's interesting because, like, obviously, like, I don't think we were necessarily expecting, this, but we certainly knew that the studio, Grezzo, who made the Link's Awakening remake, was working on something. I mean, that game came out in 2019, so, like, 4 years later, like, it's probably about time that we start seeing something new from them. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting entry, not only because you play as Zelda, but because they're kind of switching up the mechanics in that she has this staff called the Tri-Rod, I believe, and you can scan more or less certain items in the environment, and it allows you to place those items anywhere really that will allow it. I guess I'm sure that there are certain restrictions, but like they show a high wall that you can't jump up. You have access to these tables, and then you can place them to make like a staircase to get up the wall.
And it's essentially, I mean, it sort of is this like the way I look at it is like a different take on similar kind of non-linear puzzle solving of Tears of the Kingdom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just fundamentally or functionally is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, they're taking cues from that open-ended freedom, and even like the little menu that they use to cycle through items. When I was talking with my friend who also played Tears of the Kingdom, I was like, oh, they have that kind of crappy Tears of the Kingdom menu navigation. Carried over for this game. But yeah, like you can even scan enemies in the environment and like call them forth to, fight other enemies for you. I think that has some interesting puzzle applications, as well as, really kind of changing how combat goes. Because like, especially in a lot of these top-down games, with like you are kind of rushing in with your sword and shield and all that. And this, I think you're going to have a little bit more of a thoughtful approach, and, spacing and things like that might be a little bit more important.
I wish they chose a different art style. I can feel that. I can understand that. I can see. I think this is like their kind of their style, this developer, or like however they wanted to approach this game after Link's Awakening. But
it's, from my perspective, like I like the Link's Awakening art style, but I would have preferred maybe something like a little bit more different. This does just feel like they're, using the same style, which they are.
Honestly, I would have loved to see like a total kind of like Wind Waker almost, in terms of like different kind of like left field art style, just for the hell of it type of thing. I'd love to. That would have been cool, especially because, I mean, I can understand it either way, because I think it would be really cool to have a totally different art style for a game that's where you're switching up who you're playing as. I think that would have been an interesting kind of shift. But anyway, obviously this game, people are very excited about it. This is if not for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I don't know why I struggle with that title, but Terry's Turbo Trip is fine for me right now. But other than that, I think this might have been like the big kind of. Actually, I guess there's also the Mario and Luigi. Those are the three big, big solid ones that I think the headlines are going to be chewing up right now.
Yeah, as a Zelda fan, like obviously this is going to be like a day one buy for me. I'm interested in what they're talking about with the gameplay. It seems like it might be a little bit more puzzle focused. Obviously there's still combat in it, like we said, but it seems like, it'll be a lot more thinking about your environment and how to traverse through it. So I think it's definitely, whether or not it's successful in what it's setting out to do, I think it's going to be an interesting entry in the series, because it is trying something pretty different from.
Yeah, and I hope it's. I was gonna say I hope it's successful, but like it's Nintendo, they're not gonna greenlight this stuff if it's not. All right, so it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Whatever like QA they're testing over there, man. God,
don't mention everybody wants to Switch. That's the one outlier.
Oh shit, we forget about everybody want to Switch. I forgot that game came out for a long time, and then I saw it on the shelf and was like, this game. Is this allowed? Is this supposed to be out? And then I looked up the release date and I was like, oh yeah, it came out like 5 months ago. Didn't know.
Nintendo wanted you to forget.
All right, Nick, what's next? What's up? What do you got?
Is it Donkey Kong? I don't know what this last one is for you.
It is not Donkey Kong. Do you have something to say about Donkey Kong though? I mean,
I played the Wii version a couple years ago, and it made me really annoyed and irritated because it was pretty hard. But
so this is Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Isn't this like the third or fourth time that Donkey Kong has returned? I mean, how many times is a guy gonna return? All right. Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't have any interest in this game. This one does not do anything for me.
Kind of like how I mentioned before, how a lot of Nintendo's franchises are just kind of like platformers. That it's a 2D platformer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's made by the team that's doing Metroid Prime. So
Is it really?
Yeah, they did this game and Tropical Freeze, which I have not played Tropical Freeze, but everybody says is amazing. This game is good. Don't get me wrong, but like it definitely has like on the scale of like easy to frustrating Nintendo platformers, Donkey Kong is definitely closer on.
I mean, it looks cool. There's some like cool looking areas, but yeah, I'm not. I don't think I would enjoy the experience enough to put up with the frustrations, which I'm willing to do with certain games. Like Lies of P or something, or even Echo Generation, for example, that I'm currently playing. But yeah, no, that was not it. But I will give you a hint. It came right after that.
It's after Donkey Kong. Was that that wasn't Dragon Quest, was it?
Would you believe it was Dragon Quest?
You're interested in Dragon Quest,
dude. This looked so good, and honestly,
nice.
I didn't even like. I haven't played a Dragon Quest game either. This just looked that like it like grabbed my attention, and that's that Tokyo Metropolitan Orchestra, score or whatever, like that thing hit hard. Yeah, so this one just completely going in blind. Totally, yeah. I thought it looked cool. I'm sure
I'm in the same boat as you. I haven't played any of them. I have 8 and 11.
Oh, okay. I don't even have
collection, but yeah, it's not a franchise that I've really gotten into, and obviously it's like hugely popular in Japan.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
If you're not aware, they have like I think a national holiday whenever a Dragon Quest
really
game comes out. Yeah, it's like massive there. So yeah, like you were saying, the HD 2D, I think it's like when done well, like it just kind of hits.
Yeah, like and it looks like it hits here.
It looks awesome.
Everything they've. I mean, again, trailers making trailers is an art. Okay, so if they pick the right shots, right, and they sold their game, I mean, even if it doesn't look like this good all the time, it's still like that's as good. They sold me. This shit looks good.
And not to mention, this was kind of people were picking up on this prior to the trailer and everything here, but there is an announcement that this isn't just the third game, Dragon Quest III. They are also doing HD 2D versions of 1 and 2 as well, which are all part of like a trilogy at the start.
Oh, shit. So now I got to wait for the first one to come out?
No, actually, they said it in here. 3 is the first one chronologically in the trilogy.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay. I see.
So basically, it'll go 3, 1, 2. I think is the chronological version, and that's how it's
cool.
Release.
So that's yeah. This
also,
one's cool.
Little collector tidbit here: that key art is fire.
Yeah,
that's on the box art.
Yeah, it is
so good.
It is.
More like companies need to realize that the gruff person with the angry expression and the weapon is not interesting or creatively fulfilling.
but what Nick so but Nick, what if the guy is silhouetted, has 2 guns, and his face had a little thing so you couldn't see his face? How about that?
Maybe is that Black Ops?
It's Black Ops 2, dude. It's Black Ops 2.
Okay.
I mean, it's also Black Ops 1. Yeah. It's the case, and it's also Black Ops 6. That's the thing.
It's also it's funnily enough. I mean, it is very much a North American kind of issue with that, because even you'll see these older comparisons specifically with Nintendo where it's like a Kirby game will have Kirby smiling in Japan on the box art, and then he has angry eyes for some reason in North America.
Yeah,
it's it's just such a weird thing to change. I don't
the public perceive it differently, man. It's the
but that's cool that
differences.
we're both kind of in agreement on the Dragon Quest thing. I mean, I've had, like I said, I have the 2 other games, so there's already been a little bit of a spark for me to want to get into the series. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
Yeah,
but
But
yeah, that's awesome.
So some of the quick hitters now that we've gone through the main segment, there's a few that we want to just kind of quickly highlight. So there was Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Ace Attorney Investigation Collection, Romancing Saga 2. Actually, I wanted to take a quick second to talk about that one. Thoughts on that one at all?
I don't have much to really say on Romancing Saga.
I really, the name itself was the only thing I was like, what kind of a name is this? I wanted your name review, really. That's what I wanted.
Gotcha. Yeah, it is a franchise. There's other games in this series.
Never heard of it, to be honest. Or if I did, it was like one of those like in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, it's an okay title. It certainly doesn't get the,
I don't get it. I mean, I'm sure if you play the game, it makes more sense. Or like, I don't know, like something about Romancing Saga just doesn't sound. I'm not like, hey, what are you playing? Romancing Saga? No, I'm not. No, what? No, I want to know what game you're playing. What are you talking about? No, Romancing Saga 2. I don't give a shit, dude. What are you talking about? I can see it now. All right, so there's Ace Attorney Investigation, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. Yo, the people were freaking out about this one.
This one's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a massive Marvel vs. Capcom collection. You have a bunch of, as the title would suggest, arcade classics. You have X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Children of the Atom. The big one for most people is Marvel vs. Capcom 2, though.
Yeah.
Widely considered one of the greatest fighting games ever made, and not an easily accessible game in the modern times currently. You have arcade versions that you can find. You have a re-release on the Xbox 360 from back in the day, and then you have the different home console versions, but those home console versions are, they fetch quite a price on the retro market. So,
Nick, I've made a discovery. I was going through the Nintendo Direct, just making sure covered all the bases. Look at this. Look at what name I found. And the developer right here, Nick. Game Mill Entertainment. Whoa.
On Looney Tunes, oh boy.
I knew I saw the name somewhere. Oh my God, yes. This is the... Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm going to be honest. If this is gameplay, this might be Game Mill's best looking game.
Dude... I agree. I actually didn't realize it was Game Mill. Usually Game Mill games have a quality, a je ne sais quoi that you kind of can spot. This one, yeah.
Je ne sais quoi?
Yes. that's a good way to put it. This does look the best of the bunch that they have, but man, I don't even know like how I feel about it, because again, this game is coming to Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, and PC. I can't help but they're just like, how do we get to everybody? How do we maximize profits here? I don't know. They could be lovely folks. Lovely folks could be. I don't know. But not gonna play Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports. Also, the trailer on their channel is marked. I don't know if YouTube automatically flagged it as a Wacky World of Sports. Is there another game called Wacky World of Sports? There is. From 2000, what? Oh, it's a Wii game. It's a Sega Wii game. No, it does not look like. No, it's totally unrelated. it's
Game Mill.
Oh man, that's crazy. But no, Nick, they added Looney Tunes in front of it, so now it's okay. All right, and then that was
to wrap up that Marvel vs. Capcom collection. Real quick,
yes. Go ahead.
Awesome that it's going to be more. All of those games are going to be more readily available, more easily accessible, and it's like part of, I guess, what they're calling the fighting collection series now.
Yeah.
On their website, I think it lists it as a series, so probably safe to assume that even more of these are going to be coming down the line.
Yeah. There's also new Denpa Man.
This one was weird.
You know what? It's one of those things where I was watching that this part of the direct, and I was like, it's like everyone's pulling a joke on me. It's like they're all in on a joke, and I totally don't know what's going on. This doesn't.
I said this one felt like a 3DS game or something. Like the menus and the gameplay and the overall looked very 3DS. So
yeah.
I was wondering if there's like an older Denpa Man game. I don't know, but yeah, this one a little weird. Just a weird little game.
Yeah, no, that one's weird. Nothing else big to. Oh, that one's free though. So anyone who has a Switch who just wants a free game, there you go. Darkest Dungeon 2 looked cool. All right, we've gone through it now, Nick. With that kind of pre-jargon out of the way. Damn, we hit 2 hours on that one. Did not expect us to be pulling out another meaty episode here, Nick. But now that we've covered all those games. Overall, I mean, I think you were pretty high on this direct, right? You liked what they had to show here.
Yeah. It kind of whittles down to what you were alluding to before, where it's like usually these Nintendo Directs, I'm more so here for the first party stuff. So the Metroid, the Zelda, Mario, that sort of stuff. Those are kind of my highlights. But then we have a couple of the smaller things like the Marvel vs. Capcom collection that piqued my interest, and Dragon Quest was cool to see. So yeah. I think by and large it was good. There were certainly some stretches in there of games that I just kind of turned my brain off to, and it's like stuff that, like you mentioned, Fairy Tail. It's just like I had no idea what this is, and I didn't even know that there was a Fairy Tail 1. So
yeah.
Those sort of things, won't register high for me personally, but overall, I think it was a really solid direct, and not too much to complain about in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit more damp on it than that, because I just, I think that while there are certainly surprises that I understand that people are super excited for. I mean, for me, I'm not I'm not a huge Nintendo guy other than like Pokemon. So for me, I'm not I didn't have a lot of get hype moments, but I can put myself aside from that and just kind of look at it as it is. And I think there's, the three kind of big reveals that they did, which were cool. I just think that there's, and look, again, people are going to hate me for saying this stuff, Nick, but I think that Nintendo banks so hard on the nostalgia that it's like, how many 100%. HDs am I going to get, dude? I get it. There's HD. I mean, and the HD, sometimes they look good. Sometimes I'm like, the old game was, because they're stylized. That's another thing about the Nintendo games, is that they're almost timeless because of how they're designed and originally and styled. That it's not it doesn't matter, dude. I mean, it's just another way for Nintendo to be like, yeah, we need more money, so let's just bank on this one. Again, I understand that there's some really cool ideas at work with the Legend of Zelda one, and also with Tears of the Kingdom, and there's some cool teams working here. I don't know. There's so much. I also think that the Switch is just a severely underpowered system at this point, and who's getting excited about Metal Slug Attack Reloaded right now, man? I mean, or maybe you're the target audience for the Nintendo Switch. Maybe there are people that are super hype about it, and that's the target audience. They're appeasing.
Yeah, I think this is a good slate of games for the end of the Switch, life cycle.
Right.
But yeah. I think most people, at least in our sphere, that are more in tune with this stuff, we're ready for the new stuff.
Yes, and I mean, even the games that I think I've seen, like Dragon Quest, I probably wouldn't play it on the Switch either way. So yeah, I don't know if this really sold me on the Nintendo Switch as per intention. But again, there's some cool games in there that caught my eye that I'll at least check out. Just kind of this game, like Tales of the Shire and stuff that it reminded me of, at least. But I mean, overall though, Nick, I think going into the final year, Nintendo fans are happy. I mean, they're eating well. They've got their lineup of kind of first party titles that I think at this point are the things that float that boat. It's indies and first party titles is what the Switch is, and its current, which oddly also what the Steam Deck is known for, and is indies and Nintendo first party titles.
That took me a minute to get that. But, that's funny.
But bouncing off of that, but to bounce off of that, I think that the Switch is finally getting its this is the swan song, right? We ended strong. We started strong with obviously Mario Odyssey and Super Mario Odyssey, I should say, I guess, right? And Tears of the and Breath of the Wild, and so it is. There's always like I think Nintendo is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's ever been like a really kind of dry year for Nintendo fans. Like the Switch has at least 1-2 games a year, first party titles that are like, yeah, okay, this is the game that everyone's gonna say is at least an 8 out of 10, from most outlets, and
For Switch, no. For Wii U, that was some heavy years.
Yes, don't trust me. I know those years. I as working in retail during those years. I know. There were a lot of like sales at the time to get rid of Wii U's. Like, how do we get rid of these new Wii U consoles we still have laying here? You got a free copy of Mario Party with it or something. Throw it in there. Get them out.
Yeah, the Switch I think has been really great. So I think they just need to not fumble the ball moving into the successor.
Do you think that? Here's the thing, right? I think that Nintendo has, essentially struck gold with the Switch. I mean, they did what Sony could not do over multiple generations. PSP, you get the PSP 1000, 2000, 3000, PSP Go, PS Vita, and none of them hit as like the Switch did. Some of that I do think, maybe this is the PlayStation Vita fanboy in me. Some of that I think is that the PlayStation stuff came before its time. I think it was just like people were not in the right space. I mean, like the PlayStation Go or the PSP Go, sorry, is like it was an all digital console back 2009, 10, whenever that came out. Way ahead of its time, I think. I think that would have been much better like in the current generation, but then current generation games don't look like past generation like those games, and so they don't run. Right. They don't sit well nowadays. But that being said, they struck gold here. So I'm of two minds of will Nintendo fumble the next console? I mean, I suppose there's a chance. But I think the
possibility is always there.
That's it's so I feel like it's so low, right? But there is always a possibility that's like the Nintendo. And I think it's maybe like something in their DNA is like, wow, this is such a good idea. How do we totally curveball this? And I do think, to their credit, I think it comes from a good place because I think it's like we don't want to get stale. There's got to be something we can innovate on or kind of like. Mm-hmm. Even if it is at times a gimmick, like a GameCube, like for example, I still think it's like a thing that they're able to they hit a certain brand. Like I mean, they put a freaking it's a home console with a handle so you can carry it around. I mean, like this is innovation, people. So yeah, they certainly, to their credit, take some risks. So there's always an ever-present chance that they could do it, but I think they struck cold with Switch. I have to think that they're confident going into this next because I have to say they're confident going into this.
I think Wii U definitely was a cold
it's
a wake up
yes
for them. I don't think we're gonna get a Wii U again. I am very curious to see though what weird thing this new system is gonna have because I don't
predictions.
Know. I think in 2017.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think in 2017, obviously, the idea of a portable plus home console
Yeah.
probably was met with as much, skepticism before, we got it in our hands and everybody was like, oh, this is actually really great. So,
Yeah.
Predictions, I honestly
well,
have
I'm saying
no
like
idea.
close your eyes and pitch to me what you think the Switch Pro, the Switch 2, whatever it is, what how does that work to you? Is it a Switch at all?
I think it's
Oh
I'm
boy.
really digging here. I think it is still a Switch.
Okay.
I think it will still use cartridges
Okay.
because I think it's going to be backwards compatible. So I think
I
there's
hope
at
so.
least still
Yes.
going to be a
Yep.
cartridge slot in this system. I think maybe they go even harder on like controller feedback or something.
Oh, you mean like a some sort of dual sense type of like
Yeah,
that
like
kind of thing? I mean, they already
they-
have the you can feel the ice cubes in the Joy-Cons by vibrating.
exactly. But like, how many times did the games really use that, right? Like,
You know what game used that, Nick?
1-2 Switch.
Everybody went to Switch.
Yeah,
No.
I'm not surprised. But yeah, I really have no idea. I think Nintendo is always a certain non-zero percentage chance
Yeah,
of
yeah,
being
definitely.
unpredictable. And so it's that percentage that I am always excited to see.
For me, not that you asked, Nick, not that you asked, but for me, if I was to do that same thought experiment, but I'm not going to close my eyes because I like looking at you, Nick, just off to the side right there. I would say that it's. I think that it's going to be the Switch. I think it'll be like a Switch Pro, or like a new Switch Pro, something like that. Throw a random Nintendo word in there, like new XL. Throw one of those in there. Switch Pro XL. Maybe is that redundant? But maybe that's
if we're
Nintendo.
using Nintendo nomenclature, the one I always fall back on is Super Switch.
Super Switch. I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, yeah.
I think personally, I think it's going to be something completely different. I think it's going to be like a weird word that
like Switch Nova, Switch Zeo, Switch Zeo,
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we agree that it's going to be some sort of like very Nintendo ass name, but with the Switch, I think we both agree that the Switch name will be there, and then I think it'll be a beefed up dock. I think the dock is what gets the upgrade, not the main. I mean, the console. I think with the screen, because again, I think that stuff will stay. Like you can't change that. At least if you're going to keep the name Switch, even if it's Switch Zeo, that stuff can't change in terms of like the portability. So, but to get the performance, I think that it would be a dock, and it's a dock that does not work with the original Switch. Okay, and
of course,
yeah, you can't do that, and and Nintendo will sue you if you try, and it will. I think that's the big performance boost, and then it will also have like an OLED screen, like the Switch OLED does, and probably like better battery life. Obviously, whatever processor it runs like inside is like what are the PS4? Like it's like a shrunk down PS4 chip or whatever. But I think that it'll just kind of, I mean, similar to how the dock does now. I just think that dock will be the beefy part. Like that's what will be the noticeable upgrade, because the dock currently is pretty like it doesn't do much. It's underwhelming. It's not like there is obviously better performance with the dock, but I think that's like, oh, you plugged it in and it's constantly plugged in and getting charged, so you can pull more power. Maybe like I don't think it's that kind of like I don't think there's any power in there really kind of giving you anything.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I don't think it's going to have an OLED screen because
Really?
they want to sell you the OLED version
later
years down the line. So
sure.
I don't think that it's going to have that. But yeah, my weird shower thought that I had the other day, because I was actually thinking about this, was it would be interesting if they took a page out of Xbox, of all people,
and shut down all their studios.
No, but this is already, diverging from what Nintendo would do. So, like, this isn't going to happen. But it'd be interesting if they had, like, the Switch, the Switch Zeo portable.
I'm glad you're sticking with the name.
Yeah. And they had, like, the Switch, like, X Zeos. And it's, like, it's a dedicated home console. And it's, it gives you
but it has like pick up and play almost, like in terms of like maybe like a cloud save that like similar to how similar to how like the Steam Deck, for example, if you have the saves on, I'll like as soon as I stop playing a game on my Switch, on my Steam Deck, it sends the save file up to the cloud, and then if I boot up my PC and I start playing, it pulls that same save file. So it's like that kind of thing. Sure. I could. That'd be an interesting one.
That's just a selfish desire of mine.
I would prefer that more though, just because I think that then they could really focus on a home console that's like a home console. Because again, my prediction for Switch is not actually, or the Switch Zeo is not actually what I want for the Switch Zeo, right? Like my hopes, if I was having a bucket list, would be a home console that I don't care. Like I don't know how the implementation of the portable stuff is. I just want a really good home console, but I just know that the portable stuff is so important to that community now that you can't get rid of it. And you also make a good point that like the cartridges. I'd imagine they would also have cartridges of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Still,
that's kind of like where I'm at with it too, where it's just like the portable aspect I think is something that they don't want to get rid of. So like, the dream of having another truly competitive home console from Nintendo is just not going to happen, and it's not how they make their consoles anyway. So
well, I think, Nick, that brings us to the end of the show. Now, you might be wondering, wait, the inbox. What happened to the inbox? We're in the update 1.2 where the inbox might not be coming back full-fledged. I mean, there's certain things I've read throughout this episode, like the stuff about Memories in Orbit, or Bolt Gun, the DLC, that I throw out there occasionally from the inbox. But stay tuned to YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. By the way, it is youtube.com/Respawn Station TV. There you go. It's easy. That's the easiest one I could make it. Okay, so Respawn Station TV. Check it out. That's where you can find all of our kind of all of our new kind of content and podcast clips and everything like that. And stay tuned over there because there might be something kind of familiar to you over there. I don't know how to hint at these things, Nick. But that being said, one thing I will hint, one thing I will shout out that did come in our inbox that you can read all about on RespawnStation.com is a game that I originally covered back in 2021, well before this podcast ever started. So back in 2021, I wrote about how Saber Interactive had announced a video game inspired by John Krasinski's A Quiet Place movies, and earlier this week we got a reveal, actually yesterday, right? Yeah, yesterday, we got a reveal of that game. It's called A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. And it's a first-person horror game. Looks cool, actually. I'm not saying that like looks cool. Actually, I didn't mean like a dick. I actually mean like I didn't know what I was expecting with this game, and to my surprise, it actually feels a little bit familiar to, like tonally, to like Alien Isolation, and that is a really good vibe to be hitting. If again, we don't know much about it yet, But what we do know, you can head on over to respawnstation.com to find out. But hopefully when it comes out, I think that if it has a really good kind of alien enemy AI and stuff, this could be a really spooky one. It's coming out sometime later this year on PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. So yeah, there you go. Check that out. But with that said, Nick, do you have anything else to say to the people watching at home now that they've heard your real voice for the last 2 hours?
I hope that it sounds good. We did a couple of tests, and
yeah,
I'm hoping that this isn't just botched completely. But yeah, I enjoyed talking about Nintendo today. This was a
fun departure.
They always come in here. Yeah, they always kind of come in as sort of, as we were saying, like the wild card for these, like,
yeah.
And I think it was a good send off for the summer gaming season ish.
I agree.
Things, whatever these are called. I'm just kind of saying words now.
Summer Game Fest. Yeah.
Get us out of here, Suri.
Alrighty, people. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and I really do mean thanks for watching, because this was a very watch heavy type of episode. So if you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you for doing so. Please leave a rating and of course subscribe if you haven't done so. But head on over to YouTube and check out our videos, because we're trying new stuff, and hopefully the whole package is getting better as we kind of continue. I think once we hit episode 21 or 22, no, 22. Once we hit episode 22, smooth sailing. That's what we're getting to. But this was episode 15 of the Respawn Station podcast. And for the last 14 weeks, we've been coming to you weekly with news and reviews about video games. And we thank you for the support. We hope you enjoyed. Head on over to respawnstation.com if you want to support us some more. Go check out some articles, read. And with that said, as always, people, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.